Hi there. Before we begin, I have a huge announcement to make right after the intro for the show, so stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this announcement.
I can feel the blood creeping up from the heathens. Got will, got fight, got pride, got reason. If they wanna go eat, then you know I'm gon' feed them. If you're coming for me, hope you're ready for a demon. I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing. Got a taste for blood and my tongue keeps bleeding. From the words I spit, so sharp, so freezing. So cold, behold, frostbite they feeling. I could tear you apart or I could go heal them. Don't believe in.
What's going on, Rangers fans? Welcome to yet another edition of From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast presented by DraftKings. I'm Jimmy Fanizzi. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Make sure you follow us on X and Instagram at BlueSeats94 and use the hashtag BlueSeats to chat with us on any and all topics at hand. Also, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and subscribe on all audio platforms, and be sure to rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world to us. Really quick, before we get started, if you missed it on our social media, major guest announcement coming your way right now. This upcoming Wednesday, June 18th, I will be joined by the one and only Eva Eriksson of Survivor Season 48. She is the first openly autistic survivor, and she just so happens to be a massive hockey fan, primarily of the Minnesota Wild. She does a lot for charity there for Minnesota, involving their hockey community. And she also happens to play for the Georgia Tech men's hockey team, being the first and only woman to play on that team. So I am really excited to get the opportunity to talk to Eva. If you have any questions for Eva, leave them down below in the comments if you're watching on YouTube and on our social media at BlueSeats94. Or you can send us an email from theblueseats@gmail.com. That's from theblueseats@gmail.com. Any questions that you have for Eva, we will read them for the episode. And stay tuned for this incredible interview. You're not going to want to miss it. Now, with that being said, we got a lot to digest, as in case you missed it, Chris Kreider is no longer a New York Ranger. He has been traded to the Anaheim Ducks for a prospect and a draft pick. We're going to dive more into that, but thankfully, I am not alone to discuss this. Once again, a regular contributor to the show. I always joke about it, but he might as well be my co-host. That's how often he's on this show. He hosts Mind Your Pucking Business. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome back the one and only Jeffrey Krentzman. Jeffrey, welcome back to From the Blue Seats, my friend. It's been quite a minute, but it's always a pleasure to chat with you. How's everything?
I'm good. How are you? We're in off-season mode, but it sure doesn't feel like it, does it?
No, sir. But all things considered, I am doing pretty good. It does. We are in the off season, but you are right. It sure doesn't feel like it with all that's going on right now. So let's not waste any more time and just dive right in. Obviously, the big trade that happened a couple days ago involving Chris Kreider. And look, I'm not gonna sit here and tell Ranger fans how to feel. Look, that's the last thing I want to do. There are some out there that are saying, oh, good riddance. We didn't need him. What a waste. But yet there are some that are crying their eyes out because they loved him so much, because some of those fans probably only grew up watching Chris Kreider since he broke into the league in 2012, which I 100% get that. But again, I'm not here to tell you, Ranger fans out there, how to feel. But all things considered, this guy was a great Ranger. Not good, great. In 13 years, he is top 10 in virtually every statistical category. He leads the Rangers all time in playoff game-winning goals, in power play goals. He is third all time in scoring, only behind Jean Rattel and Rod Gilbert. He has been a key component for some of the most magical playoff runs. Well, not really magical, but some of the best playoff runs in Ranger history. Eastern Conference Final in his first year in 2012. Stanley Cup Final in 2014, and who could forget the natural hat trick in the third period of the playoffs in 23-24 against the Carolina Hurricanes. This man has been a clutch player throughout his entire career with the Rangers, and I understand he fell off a cliff this past season, but look, the Anaheim Ducks, obviously, wanted a veteran out there. He gets to be reunited with Jacob Trouba and Ryan Strome and Frank Petrano. And hey, good for him. I wish him but the best. Anaheim got a good one, but Jeff, it definitely is going to be weird not seeing Chris Kreider in a Ranger jersey, but if I'm being honest with you, this is the type of move that had to get done. I know we talked about this last time you were on the show, and I said between Chris Kreider or Mika Zibanejad, who do I think is more likely to go? I said Chris Kreider because Mika has a no move clause, but now it'll be interesting to see if Mika will waive his now that Chris Kreider's actually gone. That remains to be seen. But ultimately, Chris Kreider is no longer a New York Ranger. And yes, while it does suck and we're going to miss him, this is a move that quite frankly needed to be done.
I would agree with you completely. I don't know. So the argument, if someone's going to argue that it was a move that they shouldn't have done, I think it's very simple. Why are you paying someone $6.5 million against your cap to give you the sort of season he had last year? Now, I've taken a lot of flack in the last couple of days from some people that have said, well, you don't know Kreider's going to have the similar year that he had last year and be that bad. But here's the thing. You don't know he's going to rebound either, right? And you're going to play the odds. And he's been hurt. He's only getting older. I don't have any inclination to believe that he's going to return to 50-goal form or anything close to that. You know that next year's free agency class in the summer of 2026 is outstanding, and you want to have cap room and flexibility to do something there. Getting $6.5 million off your books on a player that's not putting up top six numbers that he's getting paid for is a move you have to make.
Yeah, no, you can definitely do a lot with $6.5 million. And you mentioned the free agent class for next year. We actually have word, that just broke a little while ago. Not to derail the topic here for just a second. Mitch Marner is no longer going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. He will test the free agent market. But with that being said, I don't want him near my team. I don't. He's a good player, but there's two problems here. Number one, he's going to want too much money. He's probably going to want anywhere between $13-14 million a year, and he's not worth that money in my opinion. And B, he's just such a crybaby, man. I mean, from what I have heard, he is not a good locker room guy, and for a team that's trying to get back into the playoff picture next year, I don't want that type of behavior in my locker room, especially when you have a new head coach in Mike Sullivan. You brought David Quinn back, which we'll get into in a little bit, because I actually was very surprised to hear that news. You got a whole new coaching staff. You're definitely going to have a whole different roster. This is going to be a new era of Rangers hockey with Chris Kreider being gone and Sam Rosen being gone and Joe Micheletti being gone. But I don't want somebody who is going to be paid $14 million a year and who's going to be toxic in the locker room. To that, you say what?
I would agree. I don't want Mitch Marner anywhere near the team. And I even said on the show last week, if I could even get Mitch Marner at a discounted price, I still don't want him. It just is not a fit. The other thing with his track record that would be concerning, and the Rangers have too many players that fit this bill, unfortunately, is his playoff numbers are terrible. And we have enough players on this team that are regular season performers and don't perform in the playoffs. I don't know why you would add another one. So if I'm Chris Drury, I'm not even contacting the agent to see what the asking price would be. I have zero. I mean, which is weird because his stats are pretty good. That I probably shouldn't sit here and say I have zero interest in him, but that is what I have. I have zero interest in Mitch
Marner. You and I are in the same boat. Again, good player, really good player, but worth $14 million a year, especially in a salary cap sport where the Rangers just freed up $6.5 million. I am not wasting that on a guy who cannot perform in the playoffs. That is just me, and I'm glad we both agree on there. Now, back to Chris Kreider. Now, again, it's going to be really, really weird not seeing him in Ranger Blue. And if you didn't see Mika Zibanejad's really nice tribute to Chris Kreider on Instagram, go check it out. It actually was very, very touching. Almost made me tear up in all seriousness. I'm not even going to lie to you about that. It actually got me a bit emotional. But with that being said, this does lead to a very interesting question here. Who is going to be on that line with Zibanejad now? Now, I keep hearing you maybe want to move Lafreniere up. You want to move around Will Cooley, maybe you want to get him first line minutes, which I kind of understand that. But first of all, you have to re-sign Will Cooley, which I don't know why they haven't yet, unless they were waiting to free up that $6.5 million to sign Will Cooley. In that case, I understand. So you have to sign him first, but maybe you give him first line minutes, maybe move Lafreniere up. But what do you do for the chemistry with Mika Zibanejad on that first line now that Kreider's gone? It's going to be very interesting to see how Sully's going to experiment with that.
Someone had a good point yesterday that Lafreniere, and he's deserving of some of the criticism that he's getting. In his defense, he's a natural left winger. He hasn't played left wing here. So I think at some point he's got to be given that opportunity if that's his best position to shine. You want your players to put them in a position where they can reach their full potential if that's his natural position. So I would look at putting him on the left wing, and Zibanejad certainly would be the logical piece there at center to start it out. As I always say with lines, they're never set in stone. They can always be adjusted at any time. And chances are whatever, you put out there as your first, go round of lines doesn't work out. You have to do some tweaking and amending. But I would agree with you. I would put Zibanejad in the center with Lafreniere.
See, I would put him at center too, but the thing is, when they put him at right wing, he seemed to have been playing a lot better. Now, granted, that was with Kreider at his side, but now that he's no longer there, you have no choice but to put him back at center. But at some point, if it still doesn't work out with him at center, would you consider moving him back to wing? Because he seemed to be getting much better play at the right wing spot last year.
Yeah, I don't think anything is off the table, right? I think you consider all options, and whatever you go with as your first option. If that doesn't work, you try to reinvent the wheel, try something else. I don't think he's locked into a position like he has to be a center, like he's got to be on the anything to me. Obviously, he's not going to be defense or a goalie, but anything to me of the three forward positions is in play. I'm considering all options.
I mean, I am too, but if it were me, I would still continue the right wing experiment to see where things go. That's just me. But unfortunately, like I said, you have no choice but to move him back to center because you don't know what combinations you're going to do at left wing and right wing yet. Hopefully, we'll find out as the summer progresses. The fastest game on ice just hit another gear. Welcome to the Stanley Cup Final, where legends are made and every shift could turn the tide. And now with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you can take every slap shot, breakaway, and overtime thriller to the next level. Are you new to betting on the Stanley Cup Final? You're in for an exciting time. Getting started is a breeze. Fire up the DraftKings Sportsbook app, pick your team to win, lock in your wager, and you're off to the races. It's fast, simple, and puts you right in the middle of the action. Now, I'm looking at some odds for the Stanley Cup Final between the Panthers and the Oilers. I'm looking at most shots on goal for the series. I'm looking at Connor McDavid at plus 225. That might be something I'd go after, but that's just me. What you want to bet on is up to you. And here's the kicker. New customers who bet just $5 will score $300 in bonus bets if their wager hits. That's right. Turn $5 into a Stanley Cup Final payout. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. That's promo code THPN to unlock $300 in bonus bets when your $5 bet wins. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY at 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bet must win to receive reward. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Copyright 2025 NHL. Going on to the more positive aspect of Chris Kreider, because we want to focus more on the positives here. We know it sucks that he's gone, and I know that a bunch of Ranger fans might feel different, but on a more positive note, let me ask you this, Jeff. In 13 years that he's been here, what has been your favorite Chris Kreider moment in his tenure as a Ranger?
There's a lot to choose from. I think sometimes you kind of alluded to it. I think sometimes in the last day or two, People haven't given him enough credit for how many moments there really were. I mean, there's a lot to choose from. There's more than you think. But I would have to say the third period hat trick versus Carolina, right? Saves your team. You were up 3-0 in a series. You're now 3-2 in the series. You're about to go back to your house for game 7, where all the pressure in the world would have been on you. President's Trophy winner about to blow a 3-0 lead, and he puts the team on his back with a third period hat trick to win that series and propel them to the Eastern Conference Finals. That would be up there. On a personal note, and it hasn't been talked a lot about, and it probably wouldn't be anyone's answer. But in 2014, the Rangers were in the Eastern Conference Finals. They had won Game 1 and 2 in Montreal. They'd come home for Game 3 up 2-0 on a Thursday night, Original Six, and the Garden was electric. I was in the building, and they were down 3-2 with about 30 seconds left, and Kreider tied the game up at 3 on an
Yes.
absolute gorgeous goal. Now they went on to lose the game, but they ended up winning the series. Of course, the St. Louis double overtime goal happened the following game.
Yes.
But
yes.
that would be a personal moment of something I saw with him. But I think the overall one, I don't know how it's not the third period hat trick.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. I mean, people were literally saying that's Messier 2.0. It's amazing how many people went from thinking that to now all of a sudden he's gone, no longer on the team. Now, me personally, I said slow down with that because the only way that was going to happen was if they had actually won the Stanley Cup that year, which they didn't. So no Messier 2.0. Look, nobody's Mark Messier. I'm not saying Chris Kreider was going to go out there and be the next Mark Messier. Nobody's going to be Mark Messier. But to initially, that was a Messier-esque type moment. That I will say. If you want to say that, okay. But Messier 2.0, that's a bit of a stretch, but I do agree with you. I mean, I literally, actually kind of funny. I was literally on the edge of my ottoman on the couch, right, watching that game. And I was infuriated at that time. And then Chris Kreider scored the first goal. I said, all right, hey, we're finally getting somewhere. Chris Kreider got us going. Hey, good for him. But then he scores the second goal. I'm like, wait. It's a 1-goal game. He's on hat trick watch. This might lead to something. And then he's actually no. That goal tied the game. I apologize. I'm getting misinformation. But then he gives them the lead with the hat trick, and I said I literally jumped out of my ottoman so high that I almost punched a hole in the ceiling. That's how elated I was. But hey, was it worth it? Yes. But you are right. There are so many good underrated moments that nobody ever talks about with Chris Kreider. I think there was one year in a playoff series against the I think it was against the Penguins in which they were down and he tied the game as well in that clutch
Yes,
moment.
he did. That was Game 6 in Pittsburgh.
Yes, that was
the Gallant year, the spring of 2022 on a
yes,
Friday
yes,
night.
yes.
And the Rangers were similar in the sense that they were down 2-0 in that game after the first period, about to be eliminated. And he scored a goal. Actually, Igor had a crazy assist on that goal.
Yes,
He passed it up to Mika. Mika shot, prior to rebound, and they went on to win that game. And then, of course, Panarin wins Game 7 in overtime.
Yes, I do remember that series, especially because, as we know, the Rangers won that series in 7. And after Panarin scored that game-winning goal, 2 of my best friends got engaged. So I guess you can say the Rangers provided us with another moment there, as Panarin ended up getting the game winner. My 2 friends ended up getting engaged, and their wedding was 2 years later. So hey, that was a good year for us then. But no, I mean there are so many underrated moments with Chris Kreider that nobody really is talking about. But I think everybody's gonna look back on that legendary Game 6 performance in 23-24 against Carolina. Now, I did mention this before with his numbers and everything, that he is top 10 in virtually every statistical category. He leads all time in game-winning playoff goals, power play goals. He's top 3 in scoring behind Jean Rattel and Rod Gilbert. So, are we going to sit here and say that his number is going to be up in the rafters at MSG one day? Now, I know some of you fans are going to say absolutely not, but when you look at it numbers-wise, truthfully, in my opinion, he kind of has the numbers to back it up. And look, if I had a vote, I would say yes, his number will be up there. And I know some fans will disagree with that, but hey, that's the beauty of sports talk, baby. But look, at the end of the day, do I think his number's going to be up there? I do. And I think he has the numbers to back it up. What do you think, Jeff?
I would say no. I'm going to be one of those people that would say no.
Okay.
Look, you can make the case, right? If you wanted to argue, he should be up there, yes. But when I look at the numbers that are up there, Henrik Lundqvist, Adam Graves, Mark Messier, people of those likings, is Chris Kreider in that upper echelon? He's not. He's close. He might be the category below, but it's such a rarity to have your jersey retired. Like, I mean, you are literally cream of the crop, creme de la creme. And I don't know. I think there were times with Kreider, he's been inconsistent. He's had years where he hasn't been great. He's been streaky a lot. And again, I'm not taking anything away from the career he had, but I would probably say no.
I mean, look, it's a fair argument that you make. I can't necessarily say anything that you said was wrong. Now, look, am I going to sit up here and tell you that he's the greatest Ranger of all time? Absolutely not, because obviously you mentioned it. There are plenty of other Ranger players that were better than him, and they're, quite frankly, kind of still are. But in my opinion, he was a not good, a great Ranger. He was the longest tenured Ranger up until this trade, and for me personally, look, is he deserving of it? That's another argument for another day. But if I had a vote, me personally, I would say that yes, the Rangers are going to retire his number. And look, it'll be a nice ceremony if that does happen. I think it will happen, but whether or not he's deserving of it is a whole nother conversation. Now, to sort of wrap this up here, I think we can all agree that, this is a move that had to be done. But now that the Rangers have this cap space freed up, what do you expect them to do with that $6.5 million? Do you expect them to go out there and sign a big name free agent? Because now there's rumors that they're going to trade Keandre Miller, and quite frankly, he should have been traded a long time ago, but that's another discussion for another day. He can go for all I care. But what do you expect them to do with that $6.5 million now that it's off their books?
I don't think this is the summer you're going to get, or an off season you're going to get like a big prize like an Artemi Panarin in 2019. I think the majority of the improvements that Chris Drury is going to do this off season, whatever he decides they are going to be more through the trade aspects. I know that they're big on the guy in LA, the guy with the G, Guliev or whatever. I always pronounce his name wrong. He could fit here. Ivan Provorov or whatever his name is used to be in Philly. He's now in Columbus. I saw was linked to the team today. I think you're not going to get any name in here on opening night that's not on the roster now. That's a big name. Like, you're not going to have anyone that you're running out to buy his jersey or anyone that you're super excited for. I think the organization knows next year's free agent class is a lot better. That's not to say you're going to just take this year and throw it away, but
no,
and they have too much talent to do that anyway. But I do think that whatever they do, signing wise, is not going to be major. And I think the majority of their moves are going to be kind of like what you said before with Keandre, are probably going to be via trade.
Yeah, no, I agree. Actually, I kind of lied. Before we wrap this up, let's talk about the guy who they got back in the Kreider trade, Carey Terrence. Now, I've heard a lot of promising things about this young prospect. I know he took a step back last year, but from what I have heard, this guy seems to be very, very promising. He's still young. And look, I know it's not a name that fans are going to get excited about, but history sometimes shows that sometimes the smaller names turn out to be a lot better than you think, and that's exactly what my hope is with this Carey Terrence kid. I welcome him with open arms. I wish him well. I don't expect him to be called up right away because I don't want to put that much pressure on him, but Jeff, just give me your overall thoughts on this Carey Terrence kid and what your expectations are for him.
I'm going to answer that honestly. I have no idea. I haven't really even looked a lot because to me, this deal was all about salary cap retention than anything else. But I would agree with you in the sense that I don't think you can go into it and be overly optimistic and think for a minute that, hey, what I'm going to get back here is anything of value. Look, if it ends up working out, I mean, I would use your expectations like a Southsea from Vancouver, right? Something like
Oh
that.
yeah, Carson Soucy, yeah.
Yeah, Karsusi, okay, like if he can come in and provide some sort of spark, hey, it's an added bonus. We're not expecting that to be the case, but we'll take it.
Now, speaking of Carson Soucy, do you expect him to be on the roster this year or no?
He might be. I think you have to see what they do with K. Andre. I think you also have to look and see what the situation is with the roster, how many players they have playing defense. I think that's going to be a determining factor of if you see him back or not.
That's a fair point. Well, this was a very fun and riveting conversation. I know there's going to be a lot of Ranger fans that are going to feel half and half about what happened with Chris Kreider, but let's hear from you anyway in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube or on social media at BlueSeats94, or send us an email from theblueseats@gmail.com and let us know your thoughts on the Chris Kreider trade. Do you like it, love it, or hate it? And what do you expect from Carey Terrence? But Jeff, before we go, as always, let us know where people can find your show and where are you guys on social media.
Sure. You can find us Instagram at Mind Your Pucking Business. We're on Spotify, iTunes. We're live on Instagram when we're on. You can certainly find us on Apple Podcasts as well. And thank you as always for having me. It was great to see you.
Hey, it's always a pleasure to see you. You know you're welcome back anytime. Jeffrey Krentzman of Mind Your Pucking Business. Stay tuned though, because in the next episode, as I mentioned in the beginning, the one and only Eva Eriksson from Survivor 48 will be on the show to talk some hockey and about her incredible story on her way to her journey on Survivor. I cannot wait for that. But that's going to do it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this content, make sure you hit that like button on YouTube and subscribe and hit that bell so you're notified of all episodes. And make sure you follow us on all social media at BlueSeats94 and use hashtag BlueSeats to chat with us. And also subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music, and all other audio platforms. And be sure to rate us 5 stars. It would mean the world to us. And as I mentioned it before, send us fan mail. Send us questions from the BlueSeats@gmail.com. Alongside Jeffrey Krentzman, my name is Jimmy Fanizzi. This is From the Blue Seats, a New York Rangers podcast. Go Blue Shirts, and we'll catch you next time. Peace!